Hello, Graham.
Hello.
Sunday night, darker night, clocks went wherever they went. Tick tock, tick tock.
Look, is this a weather program or is it an arts program?
It's an arts program, but it likes to take in the changes in the diurnal parts of what's going on in the world. So, welcome to the
Diurnal for
darker
murder.
evenings, Graham, which we'll come on
Hmm.
to later on in one of the topics I want to discuss. But let's start right at the deep end with what is one of the key cornerstones of Bradford City of Culture 2025, which is the Turner Prize, which is being hosted in Bradford. You're predicting that your favourite artist on the shortlist is not going to win.
Yeah, of course.
Bold.
Well,
Who is
yes,
your favourite artist? Who is your? I thought Prince was everyone's favourite artist. Who's your favourite artist?
well, I can't pronounce the second name. Zadie XA, who was brought up in Vancouver,
Yeah,
lives in London now, of
yeah,
Korean Canadian background, and
yes.
she won't win because it doesn't tick any boxes that will make the Turner Prize look good. All she's done
Let's
is
address
something
those
which is really
boxes.
enjoyable.
What are the
Well, she just
boxes?
she's done a sort of, everybody talks about immersive art, and
Yeah,
you and me have been to many exhibitions in the last 10 years in Edinburgh, at the Fruit Market or
yeah.
City Art Centre, where you walk
Mm,
into a room and the whole room's been transformed. Well,
yes.
that's what Zadie does with her exhibit, with her room that's in this year's Turner Prize, which, by the
Mm,
way, is at Cartwright Hall in Bradford, which is quite a big deal during Bradford's year's City of Culture.
exactly.
And
Mm,
and it's an amazing room because you walk in and she's got like painting, she's got installations hanging from the ceiling, she's got soundscapes, but that's all what you usually get with immersive experiences. What is different is that the beauty of it and the warmth of it, all the walls are sort of red and everything hangs together really well, and the paintings are all full of gorgeous, radiant colors, and there's nothing threatening or horrible. And the floor is a golden reflective floor, which has the very strange effect that when you look at the floor, the ceiling and the walls and the visitors to the exhibition are below you. And it looks like you're walking
mhm,
across the surface of a deep pool of water, which
mm.
contains all the art and all the other visitors wandering around the exhibition below your feet. And it gives you a little bit of vertigo, but it's a really pleasant experience. It's really warm, colourful, it's quite beautiful. Now, these are all words the Turner Prize hasn't embraced for probably 40 years. So,
Graham,
so
another word there.
I can't,
Another word there that's not embraced. The
mm,
word painting. You dare you use the word painting in the Turner Prize? What's going on there?
well, there's four entries in the finalists shortlist.
Hmm,
Two of them include, in fact, three of them include painting, really. So painting has made a slight comeback,
good.
just a slight comeback. But she won't win because it's all very multicultural, the four artists in the final. And
Mm,
also, it's quite political. Two of the four are quite political, and two of the four, have ideas that fit today's times. So I can just see that they're not going to go for something that's just about beauty and atmosphere, even though I could have spent all day in that room in a sort of bizarre fashion. I was wandering around the exhibition looking at the floor the whole time because it was a sort of trippy, slightly psychedelic
you were tripping
experience.
up if
It
you
was,
didn't
yeah,
do.
tripping up as I was tripping, and I thought this would be a great place to put a band on.
Graham, just a quick question, just on a trivial point. Do you have to pay to see the Turner Prize, or is it
No, because
free?
it's the Cartwright Hall in Bradford, which has a long history involved with the city's arts
Uh,
and cultural scene,
absolutely.
never charges entry. It's
Never
totally free.
charges.
So you're best to
Good.
book in advance, but you can't just walk up and get a free ticket there and then.
I've got a, that's good to hear that, Graham. But it should Turner Prize should be open to all, absolutely to see, and it is running for quite some
I'll
time.
tell you who's going to win. This is who
Go
I
on.
think
I
will
should have
win.
asked you that.
Yeah,
The,
it won't be Rennie Matic,
no.
although her exhibition ticks a lot of boxes. It's like walking into a full scale riot or a protest.
Mm.
It's a very well put together photo montage from current protests about Palestine, gay rights, Black Lives Matter with a
Mm.
soundtrack, and it's a really nice collage
Lots of boxes being ticked. Mm.
between the personal and political. It's really energetic. Like it makes you want to like go and protest.
Mm.
But it's quite controversial and it's not really crowd pleasing. So I think the one who'll win will be the Glaswegian autistic woman. I think her name's Nena Kalu.
Mm.
And hers isn't controversial, isn't that political. She's got learning difficulties and she does everything in a very kinetic, energetic, colourful fashion. So she either does large, swirling, kinetic, colourful drawings, or she does 3D sort of sculptures where she wraps lots of colourful videotape in ribbons round and round till she creates some sort of like abstract figure. And they all hang from the ceiling. And it's all very jolly and it's very colourful and children all love it. And it ticks boxes without being politically controversial. So I've got a feeling that's going to win, but I didn't actually like it very much.
So I'm, unless I misheard you, you didn't suggest that the first artist you mentioned work was particularly political either, Graham.
No, the other artist who's a bit political is Mohammed Sami, who was
Mm.
originally from Iraq. And his the ones who are paintings, proper paintings. And
Hmm.
they've got very subtle subjects, which is almost it's really about the aftermath of the violence in Iraq.
Mm.
And it's like how the violence is stopped, but its lingering impact is still there. And they're all very good paintings, and they all make a good point. I didn't particularly like his style of mixed media,
No.
but they work as paintings. But I don't think he'll win, even though he's political, because it's too much about Iraq. It's a bit of a niche subject. So that's why I think that Nana Kalu will probably win.
How much, Graham, do the works integrate with the venue? How much do the works integrate with the venue? Because that seems to me actually that should be a factor in this exhibition. You know, it is part of Bradford City of Culture 2025. Cartwright, significant place. Whether the art in any way took that into consideration. You mentioned, for example, the first artist, the floor is integrated in the exhibition.
Hmm.
Does anyone else within the exhibition acknowledge the space that it's being put on in, which is what I've used as an example there. I'm always aware when going to Salts Mill that is one of the factors that makes work interesting in Salts Mill is how it integrates with that extraordinary building.
Now, what they've done at Cartwright Hall, which is a very old school building,
Mm.
because it's more than 100 years old, it's very traditional in a sort of Harrogate sense, really,
Yeah,
is that each room is dominated by the artist and their exhibited artworks.
yeah.
So it doesn't use the traditional interior design architecture of the building to integrate with the art. Basically, the art takes over the room, which is what
Good.
you want. You don't want to walk into
Exactly.
a Turner Prize exhibition and be influenced
Mm.
by the building. You want to
Mm.
just be influenced by the art. So it's been really, you can tell that the Turner Prize organizers have worked really closely with Cartwright Hall to
Good.
make it a really
Good.
successful exhibition.
So overall, you would encourage people to go anyway, no matter who wins.
Oh yeah, all four artists are worth seeing. It's quite engaging and entertaining. There's nothing that makes you just scratch your head and go, "Ooh." So yeah, it's definitely worth going to. And also, Cartwright Hall's a great building. Lister Park's exceedingly nice.
Mm.
It's certainly worth a visit. I mean, the day we
Absolutely.
went, there was a Asian wedding happening in the park, and there was all the
Mm.
the horse and carriage and the
Yeah.
extravagant clothes and large Range Rovers turning up.
An art show in its own right. So, Graham,
Exactly.
excellent on that. Good evening, listeners. You are listening to the voices and the egos of Graham Chalmers. Introduce yourself, Graham.
And Charles Hutchinson. It's like the two Ronnies.
And I'm Graham Chalmers. And good evening from Artie Discussions continue this evening with the ubiquitous Taylor Swift. We've just had in York, Graham, at the Grand Opera House, a Swifties evening, a tribute act, Taylor Mania, I think it was called, something like that,
Mm.
to Miss Swift at the Grand Opera House on Friday night. So obviously there'll be I'm sure that show would have adapted to take in the new album, which is called Life of a Showgirl. This is the
The
12th.
life of a showgirl. The life of a showgirl.
The life, so
Mm.
not
Mm.
any old showgirl, but the
Yeah,
life
no,
of
the
a showgirl.
life. Yeah, yeah.
The Life of a Showgirl. And this is the 12th studio album by Taylor, who, just to remind everybody, started making albums when she was 17 and now into her mid 30s, of course. So, I mean, it's pretty prolific, particularly in recent years, lots and lots of albums. But maybe you're saying this is a no-show by the showgirl on this one.
Well, with Taylor Swift, how she sounds and what she does is affected by who her current producers are,
Yes.
because the producers not only produce, they also co-write her songs. So
Mm,
last time round for the Tortured Poets department,
mm,
it was Aaron Dessner of The National and
yeah.
Jack Antonoff.
Mm,
Now she's swapped to Max Martin and Shellback, and it's got a different sound to the previous album. It's also less ambitious and less sort of pretentious and less sort of like edgy. But it's just, I mean, the last album didn't have lots of great songs, in my opinion. And this album doesn't either. It's a continued theme of, sophisticated, polished, vaguely intelligent pop, but without any great hook lines or brilliant choruses or even memorable lines. I mean, the whole thing's so smooth and synthesized and thoroughly thought out. It's overthought. There's not a single spontaneous moment in the whole thing. It's sort of like, very well arranged, but a bit bland, electronic influenced country pop. Because Taylor Swift still has that country twang to her voice that she had in the very beginning when she was a country
absolutely.
singer
Mm.
as a teenager. So it's again, in my humble opinion, as a non-Taylor Swift fan, fairly sterile and underwhelming.
I'm surprised in some way that she hasn't taken a break. And I don't
Well,
mean to give us a break. I mean to give her a break.
well, yeah, I would say that she's no. I used to slag off Boney M in the 1970s when they were hugely popular,
Mm.
and she's definitely more interesting than Boney M. I mean, she's not only more famous worldwide than Boney M ever got, but
Yeah.
she's even though they're huge pop hits, she's definitely more interesting. She's an artist. It's just I don't think she's that great a songwriter, and I don't find her that interesting. But
But
she's
she
huge.
she is prolific, and
She's unignorable.
the reason I mean, on one level, when you got the level of fame that she's got, anyone is going to think, right, I've got to keep maximizing this. And one looks back to the 1970s when Elton John brought two albums out a year for a while, absolutely capitalizing in Elton's case, he was phenomenally gifted songwriter at the same time, and I don't think Taylor's ever going to be up at that level. Someone's very welcome to challenge me on that thought, but I can see therefore why there is this prolific production of albums at the moment. I just think sometimes step back. I mean, a lot of artists step back, give it a little bit of time, see how they might want to just reflect on things, maybe change direction a little bit, maybe surprise. And it sounds to me that this has perhaps been straight after the Eras tour that went on forever and ever. Maybe she felt ready to, maybe she'd built up a stock of songs while doing the Eras tour that went on about as long as an era could go on for. Um, but I still think maybe we just had enough of her for the moment. Maybe there could have been a break.
I think she's very professional and very, very driven, and like a lot of American musicians, very hard working. I don't think she's got an off switch. I
Mm,
couldn't see her lounging around by the pool, sipping martinis for months on end,
no.
for example. So I just think she's driven to produce records. And my only argument is that, if I'm going to listen to like electronic influenced modern pop,
Mm.
Robin's Dancing on My Own track from 2010 is way better than anything on The Life of a Showgirl. It's actually got memorable tunes and it's a bit haunting and sticks in your head. It's the only sort of like lively bits on The Life of a Showgirl is when she gets a bit bitchy and a bit like a sort of like rapper and she's having a go at people. So actually romantic and cancelled, those two tracks all get a bit pithy and a bit bitchy and there's a bit of life there, but it's all pretty, sub black rapper personal vendetta stuff, which I
But
suppose
I gather
a
that for
lot of
once
people.
she's not slagging off the man in her life. Basically, she's about to get married, so that wouldn't make much sense, would it?
Yeah, but she's slagging off previous, women who've had a go at her. It's all very sort of like showbizy, which sort of fits in with a showgirl, I suppose.
It's
But
more like
I
rappers,
don't
isn't it?
find I've never found personal vendettas in music interesting whatsoever.
No,
I didn't
no.
even find Lennon and McCartney when they were having little bitchy spats in the early 70s
Mm,
that interesting either. It's just not. But what the hell? I would argue that in terms of writing actual songs like,
mm,
verse, chorus, verse, middle eight, blah, blah,
mm,
blah,
mm.
Sam Fender writes songs as good as Taylor Swift. So I
Mercury
just can't.
Mercury Music Prize or Mercury Prize winner Graham. So there you go.
Mm. But I remember a long time ago in the era of proper pop,
Mm,
about 94 when my sister was very young, and I was round her house at Christmas Day,
Yeah.
and she was playing with 17 Stay Another Day, which is a huge hit at the time.
Mm.
Well, Stay Another Day, I don't even like these 17. Stay Another Day is a better pop tune than Taylor Swift usually comes up with. So I don't know. I've got a blind spot when it comes to Taylor Swift.
Yeah. I think moving on swiftly, Graham, before you get in trouble.
It's like
But
I've always been like this. I mean, I used to love the Buzzcocks when they were around at the beginning. There's a
yes.
great track on the debut album called 16, and I hate modern music, disco,
Mm,
boogie, and
mm,
pop. It just
mm.
goes on and on and on. How I wish it would stop. And I still believe that. But, if it's boring, it's boring. If it's not very good, it's not very good. And I couldn't care less who you are.
Going Steady Singles, one of the greatest compilation albums ever.
That's true. Brilliant singles band, the Buzzcocks.
Here, here. So, Graham, I'm just going to mention something that, well, we touched on earlier about the changing light. That's why I was contriving the opening to tonight, and it's to celebrate. I welcome the change in the weather. I'm a autumn winter man, and one of the joyous ways that this is
I can see a
celebrated.
song in that. I'm an autumn winter man. That sounds like a song title to me.
It's more like the coat that I'm wearing, I think, Graham. But I love the way that artificial light, if you like, has to take over, and that can be fire or bonfire night. Not so bothered about Halloween. Anything that's American, I can't do with sweets. Not good for you. But the light festivals, suddenly we are ablaze with light festivals at this time of year.
Mm, mm.
You've got obviously Leeds had its light festival, which I think was only for two nights only.
I think so,
Only
yeah.
2 nights.
In Swinton Park Estate, that very,
Mhm.
very nice historic estate in North Yorkshire, it's
Yes.
got a luminescence light trail coming up.
And I believe also that Fountains Abbey has a light
Mm,
trail. I think that's
It's yeah,
right.
it's all the rage. It's all the rage.
It's there's always the light show that comes up at Hullo Car for the winter time every year, and lights are hugely
In
important with
Harrogate,
that
RHS Harlow
in
yeah.
Harrogate. And the one that I've been to is the one in York, which is in the Yorkshire Museum, the York Museum Gardens, and this
Oh,
is
I've
called
seen photographs of that, Charles.
Echoes of Yorkshire. And it's
Mm.
again, I'm frustrated by one thing, and this is why these things
Go
only
on.
run for a short time. Not as short as Leeds with 2 days. I mean, if you don't get
Mm.
to Leeds till the weekend, you miss Leeds Light. I don't get it. It's a bizarre event from that point of view. Anyway, this
Yeah.
still isn't on for particularly long, so only running until November the 2nd in York.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
open. Obviously, it's an evening event, and
Pretty
so
useless during the day, Charles.
uh, Graham, you say that, but they have that. They have those ghost figures in York
Mm.
that are on show at the moment, and they work far better at night. But they're not on show at night mostly, although they are. If you
Mm.
go into the museum gardens at the moment, the ones that are in the museum gardens are lit up at night, and I think they're far better for that. So anyway, this time it's a company called Muralis, and Peter Walker is the artist that's involved. He works with a composer and he works with a lighting designer.
Mm.
And he and the composer, and forgive me for not giving the name as it's not to hand, have been working together for 30 years. And they've done places like Ely Cathedral. And this time it's their first time that they've done it in York. And the way it worked to put it together was 1,000 images from the York Art Gallery and the York Museum's Trust collection were presented
Mm.
to them. And
Mm.
Peter walked around, as his name would suggest, he's a walker. So he walked around, got a sense of museum gardens, got a sense of the history of York, got a sense of how you would use, in particular, the wonderful structure of St Mary's Abbey, the ruin there, and of course the frontage of the Yorkshire Museum, and in fact, I think in all 6 sites actually that he's used. I think,
Mm.
including the tower in the corner by the York Art Gallery. And the joy of this to me is that it's bringing art that people might not otherwise go and see within the collection and appreciate it in a massive canvas. Also using, there's a lot of writing with it in it as well, but from the history of the museum's trust that's integrated into it as well. There's numbers that's integrated into it. It's about an hour to go round to really seep into it to the maximum, and then you can finish off in Thor's Bar that's currently being has just been opened up for the autumn and winter within the museum's gardens. And there's the night we went, there was a singer there, so that added to the
Mm,
the evening.
mm.
It's just one of those joyful things to go to. And I know some people get depressed about the
So,
fact,
what sort of paintings and artworks is it showing
so
from the?
so it's glorious. It's glorious historic painting pieces. It's
Nothing, anything modern?
so largely not because the
Oh,
until the recent policy change
mm,
that's just started up. Largely, the collections used to be in York were from past centuries. That increasingly, York Art Gallery is representing 20th and 21st century artists much more than
mm.
it used to. The specialism in Richard Green's time in charge was not that, but gradually more
Mm.
and more that's happened. So I mean that is reflected in it. But I think it's fair to say that that there are historic paintings from past centuries and as I
See,
said,
I would
go ahead.
argue on aesthetic grounds and artistic grounds
Yes.
that York looks so traditional and old,
Mm.
not particularly modern, that to have paintings that are old of traditional subjects
Yeah.
isn't any really sort of contrast from what you're already seeing in the real world.
I think that's a fair point to say, but if you're working with what is available
It's also a
from
bit touristy, which
I
I'm
didn't.
not knocking
I don't
completely.
feel it's
Yeah.
touristy. No, I don't
Okay.
feel it's touristy.
Mm.
I think it can appeal to anybody, including obviously to children as well. And I no, I don't. My instinct isn't to say, "Oh, I think this is this is touristy." I don't think
Mm.
it's like that. What I love about it is using. I mean, it is one of the most extraordinary historic cities in the country. You've got to use that as an asset. You've got to bring that alive. And there are different ways to do that, but I think working with light is one of the most powerful ways that you can do that. These gorgeous buildings suddenly take on a different life. They are brought to life with art and music, and it's a very powerful
Yeah.
combination. You may think I'm being a bit dippy and hippie and
No,
soft.
to hold it to the very highest standards and the very highest ideals and ideas
Yeah.
as an actual spectacle and piece of entertainment.
Mm,
It sounds a great idea, but wh- when when it was quite rare to have light installations in cities and towns,
yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant idea. But now it's becoming everybody does it, and
Well,
I think in general that light installations in cities and towns are being used mainly to drive footfall for business and tourism. And on top of that, I look on most light installations, even though they're quite enjoyable,
mm,
as like the art that hasn't got any much art in it. I mean, I know that light installations can be art. I mean, James Turrell, American
yeah.
installation artist, his use of light is amazing and has a point. But quite often, I just think it's the modern, more pretentious version of having Christmas lights around the shopping areas of towns.
I'm not going to agree with that.
Mm,
I think I don't feel that it's that lightweight.
okay.
I also don't think that everything needs to be political. I think sometimes you can celebrate what's always been glorious about man, and art is one of the most glorious things that mankind has ever done. And I'm sick and tired of the political world, as you know, Graham. I rant about it all the time about why can't we look in other directions to somehow make for a better world? And it doesn't have to be directly political in doing that.
Oh,
You can
I
actually
don't think it has
sometimes
to be either.
use,
It needs to be art, not like and just because an
uh,
artist does something, it isn't art. I mean, I know the common argument the last 60 years is that
mhm.
art is anything an artist does, but I don't believe that. An artist can do something that isn't art.
I think I mean, it'd be interesting for you to go and see this, but I was interested by your point that there's an awful lot of these. There's almost a saturation now
Mm,
of what
light
used to be in York
saturation.
used to be light saturation. What used to be called Illuminate York, which is what, when it was York
Mm,
was in many ways the first model to do this. It's as you say, it's caught on elsewhere. I don't think it's become cliched and stripped of impact. I still feel awestruck when I look at these, and it's partly because I would walk through museum gardens any number of times in the year, and it's lovely to walk through anyway. I
Mm,
like seeing things in a different way, and light
mm.
shows have that effect. They do that.
I
Get.
prefer, yeah, I prefer street murals. I prefer in urban areas street murals at the end of a row of houses because murals in urban areas and cities across Britain
Yeah,
always have a point. There's always a subject matter.
I th- I accept that, Graham, that the significance of that. I mean, I don't like to bring my beloved Leeds United into it, but within Leeds, obviously, there is now a Leeds United mural trail because there are so
Mm.
many that celebrated different culture. With one of my favourites is the one that celebrates Lucas Radebe, celebrates Albert Johansson, celebrates Calvin Phillips. So together, of course, there's the wonderful Bielsa one, and there's a Pablo Hernandez one. And actually, I'm not contradicting myself about the fact I don't think all artwork needs to in some way be political or cultural, but I do get when they work with a cultural impact, the significance within, obviously within Liverpool, the Diego Jota one that's been done. They are important cultural statements of a time, and in Leeds's case,
Yeah,
obviously
I see. I think those linger in the memory and have some impact. I don't think a good light installation, especially during the festive season,
Mhm.
lingers in your mind for any length of time whatsoever.
Are you saying it's a bit chocolate box?
Yeah, it's the modern, slightly arty, pretentious version of Chocolate Box.
I mean, I'm not going to put up a case particularly against that. Sometimes I think it's rather nice to have beautiful
No,
imagery.
it's not. It's certainly nice, Charles. Yeah.
I'm not even sure that. I think the very nature of the fact that these are moving images and they keep changing and they change pretty quickly. I
Mm,
actually think it makes it more difficult for them to be permanently there in a way that a frozen painting image is, in the way that a mural image is. I think it's difficult. I'm not sure it's playing into the same thing anyway. I think part of the spectacle is like a fireworks show. It's the
mm.
changing canvas. I think it's a slightly different dimension that it works with.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I'm just holding it up. If it's going to be art rather than just spectacle, I'm just holding it to artistic standards.
It's an interesting point. I bumped into Sherry Federico the other day.
Oh yeah,
Sherry, of course,
Aesthetica
runs,
Film Festival.
yeah, and but also runs the East Edgar Art Prize. And
Mm,
I
mm.
and I said that I found, my one thing that she pointed out how, it was very varied, and indeed it was, but a considerable part of it was video work, and which, and they weren't sort of 2 or 3 minute videos, they were a lot longer than that. So actually, you could have
Mm,
taken a long time to go around the Aesthetica Art Prize if you were to do it
mm.
absolutely thoroughly. I mean, I spent with Celestine, I spent 2 hours there. I think I did it pretty thoroughly. But
Yeah.
the thing with the thing with the videos is I think they probably in their impact end up being the same as what you're describing with the light shows because it's moving imagery. And there is a dearth invariably of paintings within. I mean, there are occasionally paintings within the Aesthetic Art Prize. I wish there were more. I wish more artists that were featured had that distilled image for impact, which,
Mm.
as you say, murals do. Which, I mean, Hotney does make. He has made moving images, of course he has. But what do you remember most when you remember the still work that is done? Andy Warhol, of course, made films, but what do you remember most? Do you remember the still images?
Yeah. I think it reflects the times though. Artistic fashions now are for installations and videos. And I think at the Turner
What
Prize
would you put
exhibition in
that down to,
Bradford
Graham?
At Cartwright Hall, it's
Mm,
got a potted history of the Turner Prize and all the winners going back to the mid 1980s.
mm,
And when you look at the names who were either in the final who won it in the 90s, they're all really recognizable names like Damien Hirst and
yeah,
Tracy Emin and
yeah.
just a whole host of names that you recognize.
Mm,
From about 2002 onwards, I looked at the names of the winners of the Turner Prize from
mm,
2002 onwards, 2003. And after Martin Creed, there's virtually not a single name that I recognized or remembered. And I think that's a reflection not of the judges or the prize, but of how artistic fashions have gone. So
mm,
we're in an era where that sort of art is the dominant trend.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I think one can see that. So, Graham, time for a little brief interruption from you. Maybe on the thoughts about important post-war culture movers in Britain who were Jewish refugees. Maybe you'd like to
Well,
just
yeah, I'm
develop
still
that
reading
thought.
Owen Hathaway's marvelous book called The Alienation Effect: How Central European Emigres Transformed the British 20th Century, published in Allen Lane. And it's amazing because it's about how mainly Jewish refugees fled Nazism and fascism in the 1930s, mainly from Germany, obviously, and Austria and Poland and Hungary. And some went to America, but quite a lot came to Britain. And if you look at the post-war history of British culture and art, there's so many famous names who were Jewish emigres. And I remember you said to me last week, like, we'll name a few.
I
So,
did.
so I've
And
written
now
down
you've
a
done your
few, and
research.
yeah, I'm not even halfway through the book yet. These are some of the names that already fled Nazi tyranny and
Yeah.
ended up making a huge contribution. So here we go.
Mm.
You've got the architectural critic Nikolaus Pevsner.
Yeah.
You've got the architect Walter Gropius. You've
Mhm.
got the economic historian Friedrich Hayek. You've got the novelist Arthur Koestler. You've got the historian Isaac Deutscher. You've got the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein. You've got the artist Kurt Schwitters.
Mhm.
You've got emigre publishers. So here's publishing houses, which are still
Yes.
famous,
Yes.
which were set up largely by emigres.
Mm.
Thames and Hudson,
Yeah.
Wiedenfield and Nicholson, Phaidon. These are all, none of these things would have
Major
happened
publishing
without
houses. Yes.
Jewish emigres.
Mm.
And that's I've only got to about page 200 out of a book that's 500 pages.
Mm.
So, and I haven't got to the filmmakers or the magazine publishers or the
Mm.
photographers.
Mm.
There's loads to come. And Britain's very poor at recognizing how much of what we think is British and what
Mm.
we think is great about Britain actually comes from people from different countries around the world
Yeah.
and isn't uniquely, well, it is uniquely British because Britain synthesizes other countries' ideas, but it hasn't originated purely in Britain or purely in England. And Britain's very poor at recognizing that, which I think why Owen Hathaway has written this fantastic book.
It's very topical, Graham, of course, in these times.
Well, yeah, I think that's another reason why Owen's written the book because he has got, he has got a point to all he's writing. It tends to come from a slightly left a certain direction. So yeah, he's making a statement there. Yeah.
I mean, the arts has always been a reflection of that. Always. It's conflated different impacts, different influences. And British art has done that hugely through the years. And
Well,
so it
yeah, but
should. So it
yeah,
should.
it's the fact so much of it is Jewish emigres
Yeah.
fleeing Nazi persecution and fascism.
Mm.
That's the important part.
I mean, should there be should there be even a museum to that?
It's not a terrible idea. Yeah, I'd like to see like Britain recognizing its own past clearly,
Mm.
because Britain has a tendency, especially the more patriotic elements of Britain, to
Yeah.
think that it invented everything and all of the great ideas it's got
Mm.
came from England, possibly, but definitely from Britain, and that just isn't the
And
case.
it's never true. It's never true.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
not.
Britain's always been multicultural.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a case of where the culture comes from. Where the culture comes from that makes Britain multicultural has changed over the centuries, but it's for an awful long time it's been influenced by different countries and different people from different countries
Even
and different cultures.
even words, Graham. Bungalow, Indian word. Shampoo, Indian word.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Mm.
So, Graham, just briefly, next vinyl sessions, classic album event in Harrogate, which you will be involved with. Where, when, and who will be the subject?
Well, after a series of sellout events where all the ticket money goes to Harrogate Hospital charity,
Excellent.
with about Brian Wilson and Kate Bush and Sid
Mm.
Barrett, etc., etc. The next one, since it's the festive season, we thought we'd get really jolly and quite fun. So I'll be talking about Leonard Cohen.
Any particular album that you've chosen?
Well, yeah, yeah. It turns out that some major Leonard Cohen fan locally has
Oh,
secretly and privately suggested that if we do Leonard Cohen's greatest hits, he will personally donate a lot of money to Harrogate Hospital charity.
oh,
So
bribery,
myself
bribery.
and Colin Payne, the organisers, just said yes. And also Leonard Cohen's a legend, and I saw him at Leeds Arena. when he was absolutely fantastic, even though he was about 78 years old or whatever. So yeah, I'm happy to do Leonard Cohen. Happy.
I'm never happier than when I'm listening to Leonard Cohen. Ironically.
Well, but most people think he's quite miserable and quite dark. And he did have a sense of humor.
That's the key. Graham, you've just said the thing that makes the difference. He has a sense of humor. He also has a beautiful sense of romance.
That's true. Very romantic.
And he has moral principle. There's so many powerful elements in his songwriting.
He was a huge womanizer. Yeah, but he did have moral principles as well. Yeah.
Yeah, moral principle. Yes. Okay. So, yes, we did have a womanizer, but that voice could charm anything, couldn't it? Absolutely. So, but anyway, but no, when I say he has moral, I mean, by which I mean, the better things, the better values in life.
Yeah, he's also quite tongue-in-cheek in a very dark fashion.
Yes.
And they always say that the greatest comedians are the ones who know how bad life is.
Of course. That includes Charlie Chaplin.
Exactly.
So, Graham, last topic, as we're running out of time, but let's just briefly mention before we get cut off the concert that I went to this week, which was at York Barbican.
The Divine Comedy.
The Divine Comedy, promoting the new album, Rainy. Let's get this right. Rainy Sunday Afternoon. I think that's right. And so Divine Comedy. So Neil, he was very candid at saying he wasn't feeling great.
Neil
Hannon. He described it. He said he had a splitting headache.
Really?
And full credit to him, actually, therefore, for going ahead with the show. And at one point, so an unusual thing happens in the show, but I love this. What a great way to introduce the band. So on comes this drinks trolley, and he makes up a drink for each of the musicians. And of course, he mentions them by name in doing that. It's one of my bugbears about concerts is when musicians, the leader does not mention the other musicians and appreciate what they've done. And Ian Brody didn't mention anyone from his band, including the fact that his son was the lead guitarist in the Lightning. Really? No mention of anyone else in the show. Ian, I do think you should actually acknowledge. I mean, it is important. We're not listening to an album; we are watching.
Yeah.
So, what does Neil do? Despite the fact he's not feeling great, he mixes cocktails and whatever else for all the other members, and he sort of mentions each by name. But because he wasn't feeling great, how did he use the ice? Well, he got an ice cube and rubbed his head to make himself feel. But full credit actually that he did pretty well. It wasn't.
So was his head dribbling with iced water then?
Not quite that much, but you could see he was trying to just soothe himself. But I did notice that some sets elsewhere were 27 songs, 25 songs, whatever. This one I think was 22, 23 songs. But a beautiful combination of promoting the new album, really, really well within it. But it opens with 4 songs from the new album, and then works other songs in, including towards the end, "Invisible Thread," which is one of the encore songs. But equally, very happy still to be playing the obvious likes of "Something for the Weekend," "National Express," "Generation Sex." Didn't do my very favourite song, "Gin Soaked Boy," but I can forgive him for that.
Yeah, it's a great song.
And he's a charmer.
He's a great songwriter.
Absolutely. That is how well it comes across. How through these years, it hasn't altered that much how he writes songs, but I don't think it needs to, because I think he's one of those complete artists in writing. The combination of the lyrics tell a story; they flow beautifully. He picks.
Why isn't he as big as Taylor Swift? In an ideal world, in a perfect world, Neil Hannon would be as big as Taylor Swift.
In my ideal world, he is. I absolutely play Neil an awful lot more than I would play Taylor. So I'm very glad that he promised he'd be coming back to York again on the next tour. He, as ever, is a delight to be in the company of as a front man. Doesn't go strong on the visuals. Interestingly, there's just a classic.
Did he not have a light show?
Nothing spectacular.
No,
he had a backdrop that would be the equivalent of a cinema or a theatre backdrop, a drape.
Sounds good.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic Sub production.